So this is the Astra Mark 5 power steering pump, fully electric, onto the Supra. The wiring on this is really easy. You've got a positive feed, an earth, and then 3 wires in the middle which come out. 2 of them you connect together to go to a switch to turn it on and off, and the other one is just blanked off. So this is basically the wiring for it. If you're looking down on the pump, so you've got the actual pump itself there, the metal housing here. There's the left hand one, which is brown, and that's the earth, or negative. Get a good earth on that, it's got a lot of current going through it. On the right hand side you have the red, which is the positive, so on mine that goes off to the 40 amp breaker. And there are 3 sort of 1.5mm gauge wires coming out, or thereabouts. The one on the right you cut and ignore. That is a return to the ECU for referencing on the Astra when it's fitted to the Astra. And the 2 on the left here, connect them together, that's your switch line. So just connect them together and run them off to your switch, or to a relay, which you could then run off a negative and earth to a switch, or however you want it to go from there, or run to positive feed on the ECU. Whatever it is, it just needs to be switched whenever you want the power steering to be working. I've heard of people doing it off of the fuel pump as well. The fuel pump generally primes for a few seconds, being that it doesn't cut in for about sort of 5 to 7 seconds. I don't see it would be a problem, because it wouldn't be long enough while the fuel pump's priming for it to actually engage. However, while you're cranking, if you are cranking for longer than sort of 4 or 5 seconds, then it will engage and start winding up, and that's a big, again, current draw to take away from cranking. So just the thoughts that I sort of ran through whilst I was doing this. As I say, I'm alright because I'm on the standalone ECU, but if you're on a stock ECU, yeah, just see where you can find. Or it could be you do an inline switch, do it off of like the fuel pump or off of any kind of positive, and have it so you can start the engine and then turn the switch on to start the power steering then. So at least you can disengage it if you've got a low battery or any issues like that. So they're just my thoughts anyway, just rambling, whatever you want. Inside the engine bay, the positive comes in from the pump. I've got a 40 amp breaker, and then the other side goes out and I've got it straight onto the alternator, so it's getting a good strong feed all the time. On the other side of the pump we've got the return line, the low pressure, and just behind that the high pressure line, which I've used the standard high pressure line from the JZ, which bolts straight up on the banjo bolt without any modification at all. Now when I bought this, I managed to get the cradle with it as well. This is the standard Astra cradle that it sits in, and this is handy because it gave me some mounting points to work to, and also the actual pump itself is fixed on these 3 rubber cushioning mounts, and there's one at the back around there as well. And the advantage of this is it takes some of the noise from being transferred into the chassis. Now I'm running aftermarket ECU AEM V2, so I've got the switch wire, the remote wire, running to one of the high side outputs on the ECU, and I've got it set to come on at 400 RPM and above. That way it won't try and kick in while the engine's cranking. But there is a slight delay when you first switch it on anyway. It gives about 7 or so seconds before it kicks in. So as long as you've got it wired up to something that to a positive when the engine's positive, then you should be fine. It shouldn't really come on, and if your engine's taken longer than 7 seconds to fire up, then probably want to look at something on the engine really. So I'm going to reduce this 0 RPM and hopefully this will switch the pump on its own. And there it goes. Some videos I've watched and it seems really loud on a video. I don't know how it's coming across, but it's not that loud at all. We have takeoff and we have power steering. Car's ditched at the moment, sorry. Power steering, working perfectly. The advantage of this as well, and if you can put it on a switch of its own, is you could also, and there it goes off again, turn it on even without the engine running. So if you ever have an issue, if the car ever breaks, or rather with modified cars, when the car breaks down, you can still have your power steering on and you can still turn the wheels easy enough when it's going on and off the back of the tow truck. Not that any of us have ever been there before, not once. I'm going to start the car up now and we'll see how loud it is with the car running, or how loud it isn't. It's cold starting, so there goes the pump. And that's up to speed. And that's with the bumper off, so you can't really hear it at all with the bumper on. There we go. Switches off. So it's not a particularly long video because there's not particularly a lot to show to it. It's really, really easy. It's really fast. It's really simple. I got this one for £20 from the breakers, which is really cheap. Cleans up your engine bay, takes one of the loads away from the engine. What more could you ask for? Nice and light steering. Easy peasy.